We just talked to Dick Durbin, the minority whip, who said that the lead on this really has to be Speaker Pelosi. Why is it so important that this originate with you in the House of Representatives?
Well, the Constitution calls for that. The Constitution says that all appropriations bills must originate in the House. In the bill that the Senate did, they used a House bill to do that, but that was the interim bill. The bill of consequence will begin in the House of Representatives, and it is imminent. We'll be having something soon.
So what is essential from your point of view as you go into this? Because you said you wanted to be bipartisan if possible. What is essential for you to have included in this bill?
Well, let me just say that I'm very proud that our first 4 bills on this subject have been all bipartisan, overwhelmingly bipartisan. As we take up this 5th bill, we're following the path of what was in the other bills. For example, we had state and local in the first CARES bill, CARES 1, and that is what we have in this bill. Honor our heroes. Police and fire, healthcare providers, transit workers, teachers, all of the people who, postal workers, all of the people who make our system work, and in many cases risk their lives to save other people's lives, and now they may lose their job because of the revenue loss as well as coronavirus costs that states and municipalities are suffering. So A. B, if we open up, the key to opening up, to unlocking the lockdown is testing, 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 tracing, 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 treatment, treatment, treatment. We have to do that. Science requires it. Everyone agrees that we have to. It's a health issue that is going to solve the the financial issue as well. And then third, we want to put money in people's pockets. Honor our heroes, state and local, testing, testing, testing. Let's make sure that we address the disparities and all the rest by identifying really where this cruel virus is creeping out there. It's so scary. And then third, putting money in people's pockets. What do we do? Unemployment insurance, whether we do issues that relate to direct payments and the rest of that. That's what we have to do now. We had all 3 of those in the previous bills. So this is not plowing any new territory. It's digging deeper. It's more money. For example, state and local, it has the support of Republican and Democratic governors throughout the country. Also the municipalities and counties, bipartisan support throughout the country. It's a big ticket because it's a big challenge. It's only for coronavirus that is outlays and revenue loss. Again,
as you say,
now there's some issues that we just don't, that are philosophical, that we haven't been able to crack, and that is food stamps, SNAP, the SNAP program. For some reason, that's not something that we can get the other side to agree on, but we have to do it, and the American people know that we have to do that. Brookings Institute just put out a report that moms say that 1 in 4 children do not have any, are food insecure. 1 in 4 children in our country. It's always been a problem, or at 1 in 5, 1 in 6. Now it's exacerbated by all of this. So again, there's some issues that are traditional debates that we have, but there shouldn't be any question that we would have. Now, food stamps, unemployment insurance, direct payments, so many of these things serve as a stimulus to the economy as well. So the chairman of the Fed said, think big. Interest rates are so low, think big, and we're taking his guidance on that.
Madam Speaker, you said that for some reason you can't get the Republican side to move on food stamps. Can they get you to move on some of the things that they want, such as payroll tax? That's something President Trump keeps talking about, even capital gains tax. Are you willing to put on the table at least some adjustments in taxation?
Well, let me just say this. If you want to compare the need for us to change the capital gains tax, which once again ignores the fact that there are people in our country that are hungry and that there's some equivalence to that, I respectfully disagree. There are certain things that are urgent. They're urgent. To have a discussion of tax policy, save that for another day and do it in a bipartisan way. But don't draw any lines in the sand. We're not. He shouldn't.
Do you have a sense at this point? I understand the plan hasn't put together. You have a sense of how big this might be. How big is this bread box, do we think?
Yeah, big. It'll be big. Well, see, for example, when we went from state and local, that was how we embraced it before. Now it's state and local, separate. And so it practically doubled what we would be doing. And that's a big ticket item. We're doing the testing in a way that has a strategic plan. That's what we asked them to do in the last bill. We had testing in our March 4th bill that passed the House that day. We had testing in the most recent bill. We still do not have what the scientists tell us is necessary to reach out into the communities with a band of people to do the tracing so that we can rid ourselves of this plague. And that costs money. And then the direct payments, that's a big ticket item, and that's what we are working on now. Where do we get the most return for the best help to our people who are desperate? People are desperate. They're heartbroken because of loss of life, threat to life, but so many of their aspirations professionally, businesses, community involvement and the rest are so stifled by what's happening, and we really have to address that. And if we don't, it's going to cost us a lot more money. So this is a prevention in many ways. It's preventing a greater loss. And you know, it's an opportunity. It's an opportunity to do something working together that people, ordinary people, day-to-day people, I don't think anybody's ordinary, but you know, that it can say they're doing something that really affects me instead of some trickle-down attitude that they seem to be used to, and it doesn't feel nice to get trickled on.
Madam Speaker, it's clear you find this urgent. You've said why you think it is urgent. On the other hand, we hear from the Republicans, some of them saying, you know, well, let's wait a while and see how the first few bills work themselves out. Can you give us a sense of timing? I know that you're going around to chairs and talking about what should be included, but could we expect a plan by, for example, next week?
We could. We could, because I disagree with our colleagues. I could totally disagree. It is urgent. People are dying. People are suffering. We want to open up our economy. People want out. But the key to getting out is the testing. These are all related, and they're related in every way to data. They didn't mind coming back with more money for this or that without any data as to what was working best. But when it comes to feeding people, they can wait for that. And that's a matter of the health and well-being of the American people. So I completely disagree with that. While I think it's important to learn from what legislation we pass in every case, but that should not deter us or block us from meeting the urgent needs of the American people. And I think that there are people in the public, and when you ask these questions in the country, the bipartisan support for them is overwhelming for honoring our heroes, state and local, testing and the rest, the Postal Service. All these things have very broad support among Republicans as well. So we're talking about public sentiment coming to the rescue of our country, of our democracy, really, because so much of what the middle class is the backbone of our democracy, and those who aspire to it. And if we're undermining that, that undermines our democracy. And we do have money in for voting, by the way. We have money in there for voting for a vote by mail, which we think is a health imperative now, even though Democrats and Republicans support vote by mail. But right now, it is an imperative. That's a small item in the scheme of things.
I was going to ask you about that. Is that essential from your point of view? You have talked before about vote by mail this coming November.
Well, vote by mail is something, again, everything we're talking about has bipartisan support, and vote by mail does as well. The National Association of Secretaries of State, which is headed by a Republican president or chairman, whatever they call him, has written to us to say remove some of the obstacles to voting by mail that were in the CARES 1. So there's a recognition that to conduct elections consistent with trends in our country, but also recognizing the danger to health to have so many people showing up on election day is something that is not any partisan any place except maybe in the Congress of the United States, but hopefully not. They'll hear from their constituents, I hope.
As I understand it, the House is not actually in session right now, although the people are gathered in Washington. When can it go back into session, and how concerned are you about the safety of the members?
I'm very concerned about the safety of the members, but not only the members, the custodians of the building, the staffing of the Congress in terms of the Congress. I'm not talking about individual members staffing that too, but there are thousands of people who make Congress work, and it's not just about us, it's about them. And we will come back we have come back twice for a voice vote one day and another day for a couple of recorded votes, and we had a regimen that was established by the Sergeant at Arms and the Capitol Physician, and those are the terms under which we will come back again. We were going to come this week, and they informed us it's better next week because of what's happening in the District of Columbia. So that's when we'll come back, and again, we want to move with voting by proxy, remote voting by proxy, so those people who shouldn't come back, they don't want to come back if they, have a fever or somebody in their home does, can be registered in the voting by proxy in a very limited way for a very limited time. So
Madam Speaker, one of the things that you
week.
really fought hard for, sorry.
No, sorry.
One of the things that you fought hard for in one of the earlier bills was that there be an oversight commission on how some of the money is spent. We'd have Democrats on it and Republicans. There have been members appointed, but we don't have a chair yet because, as I understand, you and Senator McConnell have to agree on that. Where are we in that process? Are you eager to get that oversight going?
Yeah. Well, we've been talking about it for about 3 weeks, and I have my proposals there. I'm waiting to hear from the senator on his most current proposal. I hope that we could resolve it this week because it's essential to do. I think that we can come to terms. I wish we could have done it sooner, but I hope that we can do it in the next day or so. That would be my hope.
Okay.
I've made my proposals.
Okay, Madam Speaker.
Anyway, that will be important to do. In any event, thank you for your attention to this issue. Remember, it's all an investment. It's a prevention for this not getting worse in terms of the toll to our life, our livelihood, the lives of the American people, the livelihood of the American people, and of course, the life of our democracy.